Hey guys, with another One Take review. Today I wanted to do the fourth part in my Rock Hall nominee review series for the year. And today I wanted to talk about none other than one of the weirdest bands to ever hit the mainstream, Devo. More specifically, I wanted to talk about their album Freedom of Choice, which, while it isn't probably the most beloved Devo record, that title probably goes to their debut, Q, Are We Not Men, A, We're Devo. I do think that this is probably their most commercially significant record, exclusively based off the fact that the massive single that is Whip It was featured here. Anybody familiar with the aforementioned debut album from Devo will probably notice immediately as soon as they start listening to this album with the track Girl You Want that this is sort of a more commercial take on Devo's sound, but I don't think that causes them to lose any of the quirkiness that made them such a charming band in the first place. I mean, if you just listen to songs like Gates of Steel, you can hear something that's obviously appealing to a wider audience than, say, their sort of a jittery, robotic cover of the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction. But at the same time, I do think that there's sort of that sort of strangeness and quirk about them that just makes them such an enticing, interesting band in the first place. Even though Freedom of Choice as an album is very obviously Devo changing with the ever shifting music industry of the early 80s, I do think that they never quite lost their appeal. And I mean, really, come on. If you lose the just weirdness of Devo, you kind of lose the point of Devo in the first place. So, I mean, Devo without weirdness is like the ocean without water. It's just utterly pointless. Now, if my memory serves, and I could be wrong about this, but I do believe that a couple of members of Devo in interviews stated that Devo as a collective were sort of meant to be more of an art project than an actual band in the traditional sense of the word. And while that may not be exactly obvious, at least based on their music alone, I do think that I can, at least to some extent, agree with what they were saying there. I mean, the music is always easy to appreciate no matter what, but after you see the just really odd, strange antics of both their concerts and their music videos alike, I do think that title track, the songs like the title track, I mean to say, are sort of, I don't want to say lacking because that implies they're not amazing songs, which they are amazing songs, but they do sort of need that physical media to sort of take them to their fullest potential, and just listening to the album obviously does not do that. With that being said, you could argue that is the reason that Devo were one of the earliest pioneers of, the music video, especially with the music video for Whip It, which is easily the biggest song off this album and their biggest song in general, and a fantastic song with a outstanding music video, probably one of the best ever made, even in its absolute insanity. It's just it's kind of a difficult to explain music video because there's really nothing to explain. It it's Devo. It's all you can really say about it. I recommend watching it if you haven't already, but I'm assuming most people watching this probably have. One of Devo's most defining factors, like I said before, is their strangeness, but they also do have a sort of cartoonishness about them, to say to some extent. I mean, you've got songs here that are intentionally performed in a very stiff manner. You've got other songs that are just played in a very almost post-punk like kind of way, sort of almost not becoming new wave, but still staying pop like enough to be within the realms of the scene. And I would honestly argue that Devo may very well be the single most creative new wave band, and that's kind of an impressive feat considering you had other acts at the same exact time, like the B-52s, combining punk music with pop music and the newly popularized synths to create stuff that was just completely unfathomable just a few years prior to their debuts. But I do think Devo may very well take the title for, if not the most creative, then at least the most psychotic in terms of performance. I do think that beneath all of the charming quirkiness about Devo, there are some genuinely really competent musicians, and I do think that fact is sort of underrated by their, strange 50s science fiction alien movie kind of outfits and whatnot, and just overall weird aesthetic. But I do think that there are some really talented people behind the name Devo, and anyone who says that they can't find strong instrumentation here, no matter what their opinion of Devo is, I do think is just wrong. I think that there's just some excellent performances to be found here, especially in the categories of just melody and song progression, because as weird as this band are a lot of the time, I genuinely think that they're one of the catchiest and most memorable bands of the late 70s and early 80s alternative music scenes. And again, like I said before about the artisticness of the band, being as catchy as they are, and me saying that they're one of the catchiest bands of their kind is pretty impressive because, again, there were a lot of bands that were very, very catchy doing, I won't say exactly similar stuff, but were within the same musical circles. So Devo, even through there being hundreds of really strong bands in that universe of music, they really do stand out. So overall, I don't think Freedom of Choice suffers from being Devo's commercial breakthrough and arguably their only real uh, touch into the mainstream outside of a couple other moments, like performing on Saturday Night Live previously, doing the version of Satisfaction. But I don't think the band suffers from selling out, even though that's a term that I absolutely despise. I can't think of anything better right now. The band don't suffer from being weaker by trying to appeal to a larger audience. I do truly believe that Freedom of Choice features some of the band's both quirkiest and most interesting and overall catchiest moments overall. And that's, again, saying something considering a lot of the band's discography is pretty great for the most part. And even though this record may not be quite as consistent as their previous two albums, their debut, Q Are We Not Men, A Where Devo, as well as their sophomore album, Duty Now for the Future. I do think that Freedom of Choice does stand as one of Devo's strongest moments, and probably in at least the top three Devo albums, in my personal opinion. So, with that being said, I'm going to give this album 4.5 stars out of 5. This is just a fantastic record that I really do recommend, whether you're looking for something kind of dorky but still punkish, or just looking for something really artistically innovative and interesting and unique. Now, this is normally where I end the video and just kind of sign off, but this is the Rock Hall nominee series, so I talk about their credentials for getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I do think Devo are a very interesting case when discussing credentials for really any awards at all or any recognition, because on one hand, there is no band like Devo, but on the other hand, there is no band like Devo. And I mean that in one way because Devo artistically are just such a unique group. There is no band that has ever looked or even arguably maybe sounded like Devo, at least not exactly like them. But to that same extent, you could argue that their influence hasn't really been felt very much. I would actually argue that the most influence the band have had are within the past 5 or so years of the sort of that alternative synth glitch pop kind of thing, or not glitch pop, but just that very sort of like I don't know how, but they found me kind of sort of style of pop music that very purposefully stiff and maybe slightly nostalgia-inducing kind of vibes. It's very specific style, is my point, and I do think that while Devo's influence is limited, I do think that their art, musicianship, and their artisticness is not limited whatsoever. I think that they knew at the time they could have gone in absolutely any direction they wanted, and they did. They really just went in any direction that they felt like was right for the band and their sound. And in that way, I do feel like they do deserve some recognition for that reason alone. And I mean, I won't say that they would be on my top five picks list or anything like that, but I do think they deserve the nomination and eventual induction into the hall. And I won't say that they have a huge chance because they have been passed down before, or passed over, I should say, before, over other just more popular artists. I will say maybe they do have a slighter chance just because Devo are from Cleveland. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. That's sort of like a hometown heroes kind of shtick, I guess you could say. But at the same time, the band do definitely suffer from the fact that most audiences only know them for With It, and unfortunately, even though that is a really great song, I do think a lot of people just kind of consider it sort of a novelty song and dismiss it without actually hearing anything else by them except maybe, like I keep mentioning, their cover of Can't Get No Satisfaction. But yeah, no, with that being said, Freedom of Choice, 4.5 stars out of 5. Really amazing record. I think that Devo deserve to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think they might eventually. There has been I won't say a fluctuation, but a higher amount of more light-hearted artists getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in recent years with, Electric Light Orchestra and whatnot. Obviously, very different bands, but even still, I do think that Devo will get in eventually. It's just a matter of will they get in before or after bands like the B-52s. But I mean, hey, the Go-Go's just got in, so obviously the Hall's not done paying attention to new wave music. So, yeah, 4.5 stars out of 5. Fantastic record. Devo deserve to be in. Don't know if they'll get in this year or anytime soon for that matter, but they deserve it. And with that being said, see you guys, and that's the end of this review, so I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.